A billionaire on the verge of bankruptcy plans to use his most dangerous horse to end the blind little daughter of his housekeeper after the small girl overheard something horrible from him. But when the enraged animal charges toward the defenseless child, something inexplicable happens that nobody could predict, something that will change everything. Before we continue, if you, like us, love animals, subscribe to the channel now so you don't miss any heartwarming stories. Thanks. Let's get back to our story. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the lawn of the Hawthorne estate as Sophia, with her sensitive little fingers, caressed the petals of a newly bloomed rose. At 8 years old, she had developed a unique way of seeing the world through touch, sound, and scent. Her eyes, though unable to perceive light since birth, seemed to hold an ancient wisdom that intrigued everyone who met her. From the window of his study on the second floor, Victor Hawthorne watched the girl with a mixture of irritation and unease. The housekeeper's daughter's presence on his property always bothered him, but Martha was indispensable. 25 years of service gave her access to too many secrets to be dismissed now, especially with his businesses quietly crumbling around him. "Victor, are you listening to me?" The voice of Christine, his corporate lawyer and mistress, emanated from the open laptop on his mahogany desk. "The creditors are getting impatient. We need to act soon." "The plan is ready," he replied, lowering his voice instinctively. "Eliza has always been reckless with that high-strung horse. An accident wouldn't surprise anyone." 50 million. Enough to start over, pay off the debts. Victor smiled, imagining the headline. Tragic accident claims the life of young wife of businessman Victor Hawthorne. After a suitable period of mourning, we can finally be together openly. Sophia felt a chill run down her spine. She knew the voices and footsteps of everyone in the mansion well. It was her way of building a mental map of the world around her. Victor's voice always carried a tone that disturbed her, but now there was something different, something that made her heart beat faster. At the same instant, the sound of Eliza's heels echoed through the hallway on the first floor. Sophia could sense the characteristic floral perfume of the lady of the house, who had always treated her with kindness, telling her stories and bringing her special treats. The girl squeezed the rose tighter in her fingers, feeling its thorns graze her skin. Sophia heard the sound of the laptop closing and Victor's heavy footsteps moving through the study. She rose silently, her white cane firm in her right hand, and began to walk toward the house. She needed to find her mother. The girl felt her blood run cold, but years of adapting to her condition had taught her to maintain her composure. "I was feeling the roses, Mr. Hawthorne. Mom said they're red like rubies." "You shouldn't be alone in the garden," he said finally, his tone forcedly casual. "It can be dangerous." As she walked away with careful steps, Sophia could feel the atmosphere changing around her as if a dark cloud had covered the afternoon sun. Her other senses, always alert, picked up subtle signs of danger. Victor's altered breathing, the grinding of his teeth, the way his fingers drummed nervously on the windowsill. The girl hesitated, her small hands clutching the white cane. How to explain to her mother what she had overheard? How to make her understand the fear that now seeped into her bones like a cold mist? Martha watched her daughter attentively, noting the unusual tension in her small shoulders. In her 25 years working at the Hawthorne estate, she had learned to trust Sophia's sharp instincts. The girl had a special gift for perceiving nuances that others overlooked. Sophia bit her lower lip, a habit that showed her unease. Her horse, Storm, I heard people saying he's different, more agitated. It wasn't exactly a lie. She really spent a lot of time in the stables and noticed the changes in the animal's behavior, but she couldn't tell her mother about the conversation she had overheard in the study. Upstairs, Eliza's heels echoed through the hallway toward Victor's study. Sophia could perfectly distinguish the rhythm of those steps, imagining the elegant former model in her silk dress. Her mother always described Eliza's outfits with loving detail. Sophia felt her heart race. Victor's words about the accident echoed in her mind like a funeral knell. Before Sophia could answer, heavy footsteps descended the main staircase. Victor entered the kitchen, his woodsy cologne preceding his arrival. "Martha, I need you to prepare a special dinner tonight. Christine is coming over to discuss some legal matters with me." "Of course, Mr. Hawthorne. I'll prepare the grilled salmon with herbs, as Ms. Christine enjoys." Martha's voice maintained the professional neutrality that years of service had perfected. "I can stay in my usual corner, Mom," Sophia interjected quickly. She couldn't leave now. She needed to find a way to warn Eliza. "I promise not to be a bother." Sophia forced a smile. "I'm fine, Mom. Can I go to the stables later? I want to see Storm." It was true. In recent months, Sophia had developed a special connection with Storm. While others considered him temperamental and dangerous, she found a hidden gentleness in him. Her secret visits to the stable, bringing apples and singing softly, had transformed the skittish animal into her closest confidant. The rest of the afternoon passed in a silent tension. Sophia could hear the preparations for dinner, the clinking of silverware, the low murmur of the staff. When the sun began to set, she knew by the way the air grew cooler and the birds changed their song. Sophia picked up her cane and headed for the stables. The familiar smell of hay and leather greeted her like a hug. She walked confidently to Storm's stall, her fingers lightly brushing the wooden boards. The horse whinnied softly as he recognized her. Storm snorted softly, his warm breath caressing Sophia's palm. In the main house, she could hear the sound of a car arriving. Christine, probably. Time was running out, and Sophia knew she needed to act soon. Christine's arrival brought a new layer of tension to the already charged atmosphere of the Hawthorne estate. Sophia, still in the stables, could hear the echo of the lawyer's heels on the flagstone path leading to the main entrance. The sound had a different rhythm than Eliza's footsteps, harder, more determined, as if each step carried a hidden purpose. The little girl felt her heart race. This could be her chance to warn Eliza about the danger. "Aunt Eliza, I'm so glad you came." Sophia reached out, finding the delicate fingers of the woman she admired so much. "He's not mean, Aunt Eliza," Sophia explained, stroking the animal's mane. "He just needs to know he can trust people." She hesitated for a moment before continuing. "Aunt Eliza, about your ride tomorrow." Before the girl could answer, Victor's voice echoed through the lawn. "Eliza, where are you? Christine's arrived." Inside the mansion, dinner passed in an atmosphere of false cordiality. Sophia, sitting in her usual corner of the kitchen while her mother served the diners, could hear fragments of the conversation coming from the dining room. "Of course not, honey." Eliza's voice sounded distant, as if her thoughts were elsewhere. "Actually, I think I'll turn in early. I want to be rested for the ride tomorrow." Martha stopped her work. "But why, sweetie? You never ask that." "Sophia," Martha knelt beside her daughter, "is there something you're not telling me?" "Mom!" Sophia grabbed her mother's hand urgently. "I need to tell you something, but you have to promise you'll help me, even if it seems scary." "You can tell me anything, sweetie," replied Martha, hugging her daughter. "I'm here to protect you." Martha led Sophia to the small back room where they usually rested during their work breaks. The modest room, with its familiar scent of lavender and always clean sheets, was a safe haven for the two. The housekeeper closed the door gently, making sure they were truly alone. Sophia clasped her hands in her lap, her interlaced fingers betraying her anxiety. "Mom, Uncle Victor, he—" The girl hesitated, the words weighing on her tongue like lead. "He wants to hurt Aunt Eliza. I heard him talking to Aunt Christine about an accident on the horse ride." "Absolutely," the girl's voice trembled. "They talked about a life insurance policy, 50 million, and about how no one would suspect after—" She couldn't finish the sentence. "Sophia was restless, sir," explained Martha, maintaining her composure. "I was reading her a story to calm her down." As soon as the footsteps faded away, Sophia grabbed her mother's arm. "He's lying, Mom. He's lying about everything, and Aunt Christine is helping him." "Keep your voice down," Victor replied sharply. "It was a necessary investment. You don't understand anything about business." Martha thought quickly. In her position, she knew more about Victor's business than he imagined. In recent months, she had noticed worrying documents, suspicious conversations, secret meetings with shady-looking people. But what if she doesn't believe us? The worry was evident in Sophia's voice. A new noise caught their attention, the study door opening, followed by Christine's footsteps descending the stairs. Sophia could hear the jingle of the lawyer's car keys. Sophia, as if reading her mother's thoughts, squeezed her hand. "Mom, there's one more thing you need to know about Storm." "At first, Mom, he was nervous around me too," explained Sophia, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I learned to understand his sounds, the way he breathes, how his hooves hit the ground when he's happy or scared." "John," Martha frowned. The young stable hand was new to the property, having arrived only 6 months ago. "He knows about your visits?" A sudden noise in the hallway interrupted the conversation. Heavy footsteps approached again. Martha quickly covered Sophia with the blanket, pretending the girl was asleep, seconds before Victor opened the door once more. Victor entered the room, his steps deliberately slow. "You know, Martha, I've always appreciated your dedication. 25 years is a long time. Long enough to know too many secrets, isn't it?" Of course. Victor approached the bed where Sophia pretended to sleep. "Your daughter, she has a special gift, doesn't she? Here's things that most people don't notice." "Tomorrow will be an important day," Victor continued, straightening up. "Make sure Sophia stays away from the stables, for her own safety, of course." "I think so. He's always been kind to me and Storm and—" Sophia hesitated. "The other day, I overheard him arguing with Uncle Victor about the treatment of the horses." "But Uncle Victor won't let you get near her," reminded Sophia. "He's always watching." Sophia settled into bed, but sleep didn't come easily. Her ears picked up every noise of the mansion, the creaking of the floorboards under Victor's restless footsteps in his study, the muffled crying of Eliza in her room, the wind whispering in the trees of the lawn. And in the distance, the soft whinny of Storm, as if the animal also felt the tension hanging in the air. Sophia squeezed her eyes shut tightly, wishing she could see, if only for a moment, to make sure she could protect those she loved. The night would be long, and the dawn would bring challenges that no one was truly prepared to face. Sophia got up carefully, using her other senses to navigate the familiar room. Her fingers found the white cane leaning against the wall, and she began to move silently toward the door. The smell of fresh coffee came from the kitchen, mixed with another aroma that she didn't recognize immediately. Something chemical, strange. "Absolutely, Mrs. Martha." The young stable hand spoke low, but Sophia could feel the urgency in his voice. "Mr. Hawthorne was in the stables before dawn. He messed with something in Storm's stall, and then I saw him putting a vial in his pocket." Sophia felt her heart clench. Storm would never hurt Eliza naturally. Victor's plan must involve that strange substance she was sensing in the air. "Your mother is busy." He placed a heavy hand on her shoulder. "Today will be a special day, many things to organize." Sophia allowed him to lead her, her cane gently brushing the floor. Her ears picked up the sound of heels descending the main staircase. Eliza, dressed for riding, judging by the sound of the riding boots. But Sophia hesitated, feeling the pressure of Victor's fingers on her shoulder increase. "What if—" "That must be the paperwork I asked for," said Victor, his voice falsely casual. "Excuse me, I need to take care of this." Sophia felt Eliza squeeze her hand lightly before releasing it. "Don't worry, dear. I trust Storm." At that moment, Sophia made a decision. If no one else could stop what was about to happen, she would have to act alone. After all, only she knew the true heart of Storm. "John," she called softly, her cane finding the familiar path between the stalls. As if to confirm her words, a furious whinny echoed through the stable. Sophia recognized it immediately. It was Storm, but his voice was different, filled with an aggressiveness she had never heard before. In the yard, voices were approaching. Sophia recognized the footsteps of Victor, Eliza, and Christine. Sophia felt her heart race. It was now or never. Taking advantage of the distraction of the conversation, she slipped silently into Storm's stall. "I know they're hurting you," she continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "I know they put something bad in you, but you're stronger than that. You're gentle. Remember our talks? The apples I brought you?" "John, get her out of there," ordered Victor, his voice betraying genuine panic. "It's okay," she said, her clear and steady voice cutting through the chaos. "He won't hurt me. Will you, Storm?" Her small hands found the animal's muzzle, and an astonished silence fell over the stable. Storm, the horse that moments before seemed uncontrollable, tilted his head under Sophia's gentle touch. Eliza, who watched the scene with tears in her eyes, was the first to understand. "She has a gift," she said softly. "All this time, you've been visiting him, haven't you, Sophia?" The silence in the stable was broken by the sound of heavy footsteps approaching rapidly. Two men in dark suits, whom Sophia didn't recognize by voice, entered the stable. The girl felt Storm tense up again under her hands, but maintained the soft and constant touch. Victor spun on his heels, his face alternating between white and red. "Now is not a good time," he hissed. "Mrs. Hawthorne," the first man turned to her, "your husband owes a considerable amount to our investors, and apparently he had a rather specific plan to settle that debt." "Nothing will be discussed in the office," interrupted Martha, her voice surprisingly firm. She had approached Sophia and now kept her hands protectively on her daughter's shoulders. "The police are already on their way." The young stable hand nodded, pulling a small empty vial from his pocket. "I found this near the stall, and I have pictures of Mr. Hawthorne administering the injection." That's when Eliza pulled out her own cell phone. "I do," she said, her voice cold as ice. "I've been recording everything since Sophia alerted me about Storm, including your conversation with Christine last night about the accident and the life insurance." Sophia felt Storm stir restlessly, responding to the growing tension in the environment. She began to hum softly, the same melody that always calmed the animal during her secret visits. The silence that followed was deafening. Even the men in suits seemed shocked at the idea of using an animal to hurt a blind child. "The only stupid one here is you," Christine said suddenly, surprising everyone. She had pulled out her own phone. "I recorded every word you've said in the last few weeks. Every threat, every sick plan." She turned to the men in suits. "Gentlemen, I have all the evidence of the financial schemes too, including the names of everyone involved." "Because you went too far," she replied simply. "I planned a lot of illegal things for you, Victor, but trying to kill a child, your own wife, there are lines that can't be crossed." The horse, still under Sophia's gentle touch, had positioned himself protectively, partially blocking the passage. The animal seemed to sense the danger that Victor represented, especially to the little girl who understood him so well. At that moment, 3 police cruisers entered the property, their flashing lights illuminating the walls of the stables with blue and red flashes. Victor, realizing he was cornered, changed direction abruptly, running toward the back area of the property. Sophia, still next to Storm, perceived a sudden change in the animal's posture. "He won't be able to escape," she said, her voice soft but firm. "Storm knows all the paths better than anyone." "Storm's going to stop him," replied Sophia with surprising certainty. "He knows what to do." Sophia, focused on the sounds around her, narrated what her other senses picked up. "Uncle Victor is running along the eucalyptus trail. Storm is circling along the rocky path. He's going to intercept him in the clearing." "Get out of the way, stupid animal." Victor's desperate voice sounded distant. Christine, who had remained silent, approached Eliza. "I'm so sorry," she said, her voice laden with guilt. "I should have told you before, but—" The sound of handcuffs closing announced that Victor had finally been captured. The police officers led him back while he shouted threats and incoherent accusations. Storm, his mission accomplished, returned calmly to the stables, stopping next to Sophia. The girl reached out, immediately finding the animal's muzzle. The first rays of sunshine finally broke completely through the morning fog, bathing the stables in a golden light. The Hawthorne estate, which moments before had been the scene of so much fear and tension, now seemed to breathe a different air, as if a weight had been lifted from its foundations. The following hours were a whirlwind of activity at the Hawthorne estate. Police officers came and went, collecting testimonies and evidence. The two men in suits, who identified themselves as private investigators hired by Victor's creditors, shared information with the authorities. In the middle of the chaos, Sophia remained serenely next to Storm, like an anchor of calm in a stormy sea. "We need to take the animal for testing," said a forensic officer, approaching the stable cautiously. "The injected substance may be dangerous." John offered to accompany them, driving the horse transport van. While the preparations were made, Christine handed the authorities a folder full of documents. The lawyer took a deep breath. "Because I realized I was becoming an accomplice to something monstrous. Victor was always difficult, but trying to kill a child. Your own wife." She shook her head. "There are lines that can't be crossed." "It was a mistake," admitted Christine. "A mistake that almost cost me my humanity. Seeing Sophia today, with so much courage and compassion, made me realize what I was turning into." "The recording we made today will be crucial," added the other, "especially the part where he admits the plan to use the horse as a weapon." "In all my years of practice," he commented to Martha, "I've never seen anything like it. Your daughter has an extraordinary gift." Eliza approached, still dressed in her riding clothes, a reminder of the terrible fate that Victor had planned for her. In the van, Sophia adjusted Storm's position, her small fingers running gently through the animal's mane. To those who watched, it was hard to tell who was taking care of whom. An officer approached with the preliminary results of the forensics. "We found the vial used by Hawthorne. It was a mixture of stimulants and aggressive agents. He really planned everything down to the smallest detail." The veterinary clinic was quiet when Sophia, accompanied by her mother and Eliza, arrived to visit Storm the next morning. The smell of antiseptic and medicines was strong, but the girl could distinguish the familiar scent of her friend even before entering his stall. The girl smiled, her white cane easily finding its way to the stall. A soft whinny greeted her, followed by the familiar sound of hooves moving against the fresh straw. "Love is stronger than any poison," said Sophia simply, her hands finding Storm's muzzle. "It's perfect," completed Eliza. "That mansion has seen too much sadness. It's time to transform it into a place of healing and hope." "Sweetie," Eliza approached, gently touching the girl's shoulder, "you see with your heart. That's more valuable than any physical sight." Eliza sighed. It was inevitable. Victor's arrest and the financial scandal are news in themselves. She turned to Martha. "We need to protect Sophia from all this exposure." "He agrees with me," she said, smiling. "We have," confirmed Sophia, "since the first time I visited him in the stable, when everyone said he was dangerous. I knew he just needed someone who really listened to him. And you too," she said to Martha and Sophia, "will have a fundamental role. You're no longer employees, you're partners in this project." "You can, sweetie. And more than that, you're going to inspire them. You're going to show them that we don't need eyes to see the true nature of someone." "I brought news," she said, addressing Eliza. "The police found all the evidence of Victor's schemes and—" She hesitated, looking at Sophia, who was still stroking Storm. "I thought you'd like to know that he confessed everything." "Yes. When confronted with all the evidence, especially the videos from yesterday, he broke down." Christine took a deep breath. He told about the original plan for Eliza, how he changed his mind when Sophia overheard him, and how he planned to use Storm to, well, the horse, as if understanding they were talking about him, tilted his head to gently nuzzle Sophia's face. Dr. Marina, who was watching the interaction, made notes quickly on her clipboard. "It's the least I can do," replied Christine, a soft blush tinting her cheeks. "I want to help transform all the evil I helped create into something good, if you allow it, of course." "I heard your voice when you came to the mansion," explained Sophia. "There was always sadness in it, even when you tried to seem strong." Dr. Marina cleared her throat softly. "Speaking of perception, I need to show you something." She approached with some tests. Storm's levels of serotonin and other neurotransmitters are surprisingly normal, considering the substance that was injected into him. It's like Sophia's presence creates a natural calming effect on his nervous system. "It's science proving what the heart already knew," commented John, who was organizing some equipment near the stall. "Those two have a special connection." "Yes, sweetie," replied Eliza, moved. "And more than that, we're going to help them discover their own strength, just like you discovered yours." The girl raised her face, thoughtful. "Can I talk to them? I want people to know that we don't have to be afraid of what we don't understand, whether it's a scared horse or a sad person." Dr. Marina consulted her tests once more. "Well, clinically, he's stable. If we keep the interview here in the clinic's inner courtyard, where he feels safe, I don't see a problem." "Can you tell us how your friendship with Storm began?" asked a reporter gently, after all the introductions were made. The journalists exchanged impressed glances, their pens sliding quickly over their notepads. Dr. Marina, who was watching the scene, added her professional perspective. "What Sophia did instinctively is something we study in behavioral veterinary medicine. She created a bond of trust that transcends the usual barriers between humans and animals." Eliza took a step forward. "Sophia and Storm not only saved my life, they saved this property, transforming it from a place of dark secrets into a center of healing and hope." Sophia laughed softly. "Storm is my eyes. We understand each other without needing words. When I'm on him, I feel as if I can see the whole world through our shared heart." "The documents for the center are already being processed," she announced, approaching. "In 2 weeks, we can start the adaptations on the property." The girl nodded, her face lit by a serene smile. "Storm will help too. He understands the pain of others, doesn't he, buddy?" "There's something special happening here," commented Dr. Marina to the reporters. "Something that transcends our traditional understanding of the relationship between humans and animals. Sophia and Storm are teaching us that true vision comes from the heart." As the interviews continued, Eliza watched the scene with a new perspective. The mansion that Victor had transformed into a stage of greed and betrayal would now be a sanctuary of healing and renewal. And all thanks to a little blind girl who saw more deeply than anyone. "Some people ask me if I miss being able to see," said Sophia, answering a final question. "But I think everyone has their own way of seeing the world. Mine is through love, as Storm taught me. And when you truly love, you're never really in the dark." A year had passed since the dramatic events at the Hawthorne estate. The old house, once dark and laden with secrets, now vibrated with children's laughter and the cheerful whinnying of horses. The New Horizons Equine Therapy Center had become a national reference in therapeutic treatment with horses. It was the morning of the center's official inauguration, and the garden was decorated for the ceremony. Reporters, officials, and families gathered to witness something special, the first public performance of Sophia and Storm. Eliza, elegant in a blue ensemble, approached the two. The old mansion, now transformed into a welcoming space of healing, was a reflection of the change in her own life. "The guests are arriving. Are you sure you want to do this, Sophia?" John, now the center's director of equine care, led Storm to the presentation area. The horse, once known for his difficult temperament, had become the perfect example of gentleness and patience with the children who frequented the center. Dr. Marina, who now coordinated the center's therapeutic program, took the microphone to open the ceremony. "Today we celebrate not only the official inauguration of a treatment center, but the victory of love over fear, of understanding over prejudice. The audience watched in reverent silence as Sophia, sitting upright on Storm, began her performance. Without reins, guiding only with gentle touches and whispered words, she led the majestic animal in a series of movements that seemed like a dance. Christine, who had become the center's legal advisor, watched with tears in her eyes. Her own journey of redemption had found purpose in working to make the project legally possible. The presentation reached its apex when Sophia, with complete confidence, stretched out her arms like wings as Storm cantered smoothly through the arena. There was no fear, no limitations, just the pure joy of two beings in perfect harmony. "Some people only see with their eyes," said Sophia into the microphone afterwards, her clear voice reaching all those present. "But there are many other ways of seeing. Storm taught me that when we open our hearts, we discover a vision that goes far beyond what the eyes can show. And to think it all started with a girl who wasn't afraid to love a horse that everyone feared," she reflected. Sophia and Storm continued to be the heart of the center, inspiring each new person who arrived with their story of love, courage, and overcoming adversity. Because, as Sophia always said, true vision doesn't come from the eyes, but from the heart that opens to see beyond appearances. And every morning, when the sun rose over the property, it was possible to see a little blind girl and a majestic horse galloping freely through the fields, reminding everyone that the greatest miracles happen when we allow ourselves to see with the heart.